Muslim apologists. By the way, Muslim apologist has his own channel, and I'm a fan of people who jump into the marketplace of ideas and hold their ground. And a Muslim apologist, he does a lot of videos very critical of Christianity and sometimes Judaism, and how Yahweh might be a pagan god, but Allah is the real true one God. I love that kind of content, even though I might not be aligned with Muslim apologists, but I still like to see his arguments in this marketplace, in this arena. It's really fun, and I'm glad you're here watching me right now. That really makes me happy. But thank you for the super chat. Did Philo of Alexandria influence the Gospel of John?
I'm going to parse that question a little bit. No, I don't think Philo influenced the Gospel of John if we're talking about the Philonic corpus. But I do think that there are things in the Gospel of John that will remind one of a Jewish form of Middle Platonism. Now, but I don't think they're as extensive as John's indebtedness to Dionysian religion and the Euripidean play, the Bacchae. But what you're identifying is that the Gospel of John and Philo of Alexandria are both drinking from the Septuagint to some extent, and are philosophically sophisticated. So one can see this, for example, in the Gospel of John in the famous prologue, where the Logos has come into the world and is doing so to give gift after gift, and he gives life and so on. Philo is very concerned with the Logos and in treating it in a Jewish context. So your question is learned and it's clever. And I do think one can make a case that there are echoes of the kinds of Jewish Middle Platonism that we find in Philo in the Gospel of John, but I wouldn't want to talk about it as influence.
Incredible stuff. I love it. I love the question.
Very good question.
And don't forget, right off the bat, in the beginning is the Logos. A lot of your English translations will say the word with a capital W. When we go back to that Greek, it's the Logos, and that's the Logos that you see in Philo. So there's also that too. Don't forget about that. And I love the question. Thank you for that.
Hey, actually, Neil, if I might, in my view, the title of the Lost Gospel Q was the Logoi, or sayings of Jesus.
Wow.
The beginning of the Septuagint of Deuteronomy is, these are the Logoi that Moses spoke in the wilderness. The Hebrew title of the book of Deuteronomy is Hadabarim, the words, and they're the words of Moses. Ooh. When you get to the Gospel of Luke, Luke's prologue says, Theophilus, I'm going to write these things so you may be sure about the logoi that you have been taught. The Gospel of Thomas says these are the secret logoi that the risen Jesus, the living Jesus, gave to Thomas, Didymus. So the idea of logos or logoi is deeply embedded in the gospel tradition. And I think logoi comes in the Q document as an imitation of Deuteronomy. So this notion of the logos in the Gospel of John is personifying the word. So it's no longer the word that Jesus speaks, but he himself is the logos that comes into the world and speaks to it as a divine agent. And that's a bit different from the way Philo treats the logos, but it's not all that different, because the logos in Philo plays a function very much like Sophia in Jewish wisdom. And of course, Neil knows the importance of logos and Sophia in Gnosticism. Yeah. So you've got this really clever matrix and history of a use of a word that now in John becomes personified, and there are places in Philo where the Logos plays a personified function, and certainly in Gnosticism.
Yeah. Wow, it was incredible. Right before we switch to the next one, you just hold on, wait, we got one more. That was amazing. Good stuff right there. Muslim apologists. I hope you clip that and make that into a video for like a short or something, because that was some good stuff right there. Thank you for that.